Of course, we know Zach Bond is now back with the Eagles, reacting to his contract today, and I love what the Eagles did yesterday. But one guy that's not here anymore, at least for now, is Darius Slay, who's a free agent who got cut a couple days ago. But he's still doing his podcast, right? He's still on TV. He went on yesterday with FS1, so he's still talking, and he still has a lot to say. Listen to this, because it sounds like Darius Slay said something on his podcast that may have caused a little bit of a crash out from a guy that's actually still on the Eagles. Let's hear from Slay on his pod about the future of the Eagles defense.
I do got a great leadership role in that secondary room, but I won't be surprised if Reed and them guys like Reed can, advance these guys. Reed being around me and a lot of other veterans that have been here before, and I'm sure he can lead that group the right way. So that's who I feel will be leading the group if I ain't in that building is Reed Blankenship, because he's a great leader. You know what I'm saying? He is a great damn leader. If they bring another veteran in that's already been playing a lot, I can see them coming in and being a leader as well. But for sure, if I'm not in that room, Reed Blankenship, will be a great, tremendous leader.
All right, so there's Slay on his podcast, talking up Reed and saying, if Darius is not back, then Reed will become the leader. Let me now read you a series of tweets. Go ahead.
Just real quick, because the Reed part is one thing, but he did say, or if they add a veteran to replace me, they might step up to be a leader.
So he said Reed could be, or if, right, like Kyle said, if they add another veteran, that guy could be. Let me then read you a series of tweets here from Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Now, there is not a concrete reality that he's responding to this, but as I read these to you, it's hard to imagine he's talking about anything else besides what Darius Slay said on his podcast. Here we go. A series of 4 tweets from earlier this morning, and these were all in like an hour span. All right, let's start with the first one. If we need a vet, this is all from CJGJ on Twitter. If we need a vet that played a lot to help us, sheesh, didn't learn from the last mistake, crying, laughing emoji. Next one. Last vet that replaced me helped y'all get to the door in wildcard round, 100 emoji. Remember that. Next one, vet presence is always needed. Don't get me wrong, but bro, what, quote, vet is needed when young guys can hold their own, Q and Coop, and you got a crazy duo, Reed and me. And the supporting cast, Ringo, Zay, Andre, Sam, Eli, Sidney, Tristan, stay with the youth, you ask me. And then the final one, after a little bit of time passed, not a crash out, just keeping it real, 100 emoji. Hugh.
No, that's a crash out.
Okay, tell us what you're thinking on this.
Initially, when we talked about this, because I had a friend of mine she was telling me about it, and I didn't understand why he got offended because his name wasn't mentioned. I get it now.
Because if they bring another vet in?
Well, not only that, it was you kept reiterating, like you completely forgot about him. Like CJGJ is a leader. He might not lead in the sense the way that Slay led. Because when I hear the young guys talking, Slay was the guy that name always came up. He was the guy that always imparted wisdom on the young guys and talked about different intricacies of playing don't be laughing at that, Kyle. The position and things of that nature. So I never once thought anything about it because he was the leader. But I hear where maybe CJGJ got a little bit in his feelings about the fact that he kept saying Reed Blankenship's name. He just kept saying it. Like he just kind of felt dismissed. But listen, my thing is this. You know what you bring to the table, right? And there's a lot of times like leaders are guys that they don't hold their hand up and say, hey, I'm the leader. Guys just kind of gravitate towards them.
I would say like Hurts.
Yeah, because I can't remember one time where Trot said anything about he a leader or Brian said anything about these guys that I played with or anything like that. It is what it is. So for somebody to brand you a leader or not brand you a leader, I don't feel like you need that validation when you're a leader. Because I feel like he is, to a certain extent. And you don't have to remind people, in my opinion, about your contribution because it's obvious. We saw what happened when you weren't here.
Yeah.
And we saw what happened when you were here. So if you're looking for validation, I don't really think you need it, bro. because you validated your parking ticket is validated. Now, if Slay doesn't want to do that for whatever reason, I get you're mad about that, but I wouldn't have said anything.
Would it have offended you if you were the player? If you were CJGJ?
No, because I know what CJGJ knows what he brings to the table. We know what he brings to the table. I don't feel like, to be honest, that he had to say a word. It might not be talked about to his liking, but we know what he did. We know what he brought to the table. So it's one of those things where I don't feel like sometimes you can't. And I know this might sound crazy coming from me, but you ain't got to be petty all the time. Not all the
I know
time.
Somebody who it is.
I know. Listen, I go through spurts. I try to be a grown-up every now and then, but yeah, you ain't got to be petty all the time.
So, all right, so a couple things hit me from this, Hugh. Number one, this is going to be CJGJ's 7th year in the NFL. When Kyle pointed out, listening to it again, that he did mention, if he just views Reed as maybe Reed is a great leader. I don't know. I mean, maybe he is. But if he just views Reed that way, okay, maybe he's the. But this is good. CJGJ's 7 years in the NFL is a long time. I could see why CJ thinks I'm the vet now in this locker room and within my DB room. Okay, that's that. But the second thing that I thought of listening to all this, and CJ could tell me it's not a crash out. This is what a crash out looks like. This is textbook crash out definition.
If you have to tweet, this is not a crash out.
You're crashing out.
It's a crash out. Yeah.
I give even more credit to Sirianni for keeping this thing together. They got a lot of personality in that locker room.
It is, man, and to a certain extent, I mean, I'm not going to poo-poo his desire to be validated, but dude, it's like you're a champion. You see what you bring to the table.
Yeah.
And if you want to be that leader, you lead by example, in my opinion. That's the old school way to do it, and that's it. I don't see why you need that validation.
So, do you think this comes from a place of more wanting the validation or just being sort of upset with Slay personally? Because that felt like a sneak diss, did it not?
Yeah, a little bit.
It felt like he intentionally left him out. And then if you go back to earlier this season, I think it was after the Bucs game, when CJ got smoked and Parsons and Slay were buddy and slap assing around on their podcast talking about CJ, and Slay was joking about it. And we were kind of like, well, that's weird, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
But CJ said no, me and Slay are cool, and he said really nice things about Slay. Maybe he feels like that's not being reciprocated, and he's sort of just like, what the hell, Slay? Where's that coming from?
I wonder if it's going to be awkward if Slay does come back. I mean, we already buried that, whatever that was last year. We're going to do it again?
Did he burn that bridge?
I don't know. But this is a crash out. Hugh, would you qualify this as a crash out?
Yeah, it's a crash out.
Okay, so we're all on the same page here? This is a crash out?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a crash out. I will say, valid point by CJ that he left. The only 2 times that Slay has been to a Super Bowl
is with him.
Is with CJ Gardner-Johnson.
It is a checkmate kind of tweet.
It is.
What are you going to say to that? I mean, the truth is the truth. All right, so that we can react to that as well. 215-592-9494. CJGJ saying he's not crashing out, clearly crashing out here, about the Darius Slay thing. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it was done on purpose by Slay, but it was. It's hard to ignore that one guy's been in the league 7 years, and you don't talk about him as a leader. If I had to guess, I don't think it was. I don't know if he set out when he put the mic on that day to diss him. But once he got into it, he could have easily said, "Oh yeah, and CJ," and he didn't do that.
I could be ignorant about this, but Reed Blankenship feels like a quiet guy. We know Gardner-Johnson.
I don't know. You might be wrong. Maybe Reed's an electric factor, and you don't know about it.
I know, but what I do know is that CJ Gardner-Johnson is he's clearly an electric factory.
Why don't you see it in his tweets? You see it in the crash out that is there.